Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, today we are diving headfirst into a really wild contradiction straight out of the ancient Mahabharata text. It's this crazy story exploring the absolute extremes of personal vows, royal duty, and, well, some pretty intense accountability. We're going to look at how a violent encounter unravels into a fascinating lesson on just how far people will actually go to keep a promise. We are starting right in the middle of a massive mystery here. Just picture this. A holy man, a Brahmana, walks up to a royal monarch to ask for alms. Now, this was a totally standard everyday practice in this ancient society. But instead of being greeted with, charity, he gets violently struck with a whip by a king who is literally famous everywhere for being virtuous. It makes absolutely no sense at first glance, right? Why on earth would a righteous ruler do something like that? Section 1. The shocking encounter. Section 2. Tale of Two Kings. Let's set the stage. Notice how perfectly matched but also completely different these two rulers actually are. On one hand, you have King Vrishadarbha, and on the other, King Seduka. Both were royal kshatriyas, warrior kings who were total masters of weapons and morals. But here's the catch. Vrishadarbha had this incredibly rigid, highly personal rule about his wealth. Seduka, well, he was a bit more cunning, and he was secretly holding on to a crucial piece of knowledge about his rival. So let's zoom in on Vrishadarbha's rule. The text calls this an unuttered vow. Now, this wasn't some public law he was shouting from the rooftops. It was a strict, completely unspoken personal oath he'd kept since he was just a kid. This vow meant he would never, ever give any metal or wealth to Brahmanas other than pure gold and silver. This silent, uncompromising promise is exactly what sets the stage for our entire conflict, simply because it severely limits how the guy can actually show charity. Section 3. An impossible request. Okay, so this Brahmana finally finishes his rigorous studies, and now he needs to pay his teacher. He goes to King Seduka and boldly asks for something absolutely astonishing: 1,000 horses. To put that kind of financial weight into perspective, that is literally the ancient equivalent of a brand new grad walking up to a billionaire and asking for a fleet of Lamborghinis to pay off their student loans. It is just a completely astronomical request. King Seduka hears this and flat out tells the guy, "Yeah, it is not possible for me to give thee this." But Seduka is clever. He evades this massive request by just passing the buck. He tells the Brahmana to go directly to our highly virtuous king, Vrishadarbha, swearing up and down that Vrishadarbha will absolutely hook him up. But remember our little secret from earlier? Seduka secretly knows all about Vrishadarbha's unuttered vow to only ever give gold and silver, so definitely no horses. Section 4. A curse averted. And that brings us right back to our shocking opening scene. The Brahmana takes Seduka's advice, asks Vrishadarbha for the 1,000 horses, and bam! He's instantly struck with a whip. Naturally, the holy man is completely outraged. I mean, he's done absolutely nothing wrong by asking for alms, and yet he's just been physically assaulted. In this ancient context, a wronged Brahmana had some serious spiritual power. He is standing right on the edge of dropping a devastating supernatural curse on the king, but he pauses just long enough to demand an explanation for the sudden violence. This right here brilliantly shows the king's philosophical counterattack. Instead of just cowering from the threat of a magical curse, King Vrishadarbha completely flips the script. He starts questioning the holy man's own moral standing and entitlement. He's basically saying, wait a minute, are you really going to curse someone just because you didn't get the exact gift you wanted? Is that how a holy man is supposed to act when he gets denied a massive fortune? It is such a tense, magnificent standoff of moral codes. De-escalating this super intense standoff, the Brahmana actually answers honestly. He admits he was really just following King Seduka's directions. He says, "I was sent unto thee by Seduka. I come before thee for this." And wow, this single piece of information completely shifts the entire dynamic. The king suddenly realizes, oh, this guy isn't just some entitled beggar making outrageous demands. He's an unwitting pawn in Seduka's clever little game. Section 5. The ultimate generosity. Now, the king reveals his ultimate, unshakable logic. He realizes that physically striking an innocent guy who was literally just acting as a messenger, that created a massive moral debt, and as a righteous Kshatriya king, he has to pay it. The violence was a huge mistake, a total knee-jerk reaction to a request that violated his secret vow, and now his own sense of honor demands extreme restitution to balance out the scales. So what exactly does he do? Well, instead of the 1,000 horses, which again, he literally can't give because of that childhood oath, the king just hands over all the tribute collected by his entire kingdom before the mourning expired. He pays out this massive royal revenue purely in gold and silver. This is such a clever move because it fulfills his unspoken vow while simultaneously paying off the huge moral debt to the guy he just whipped. And guys, the payout was absolutely massive. The text explicitly points out that the entire proceeds of that day's tribute were worth way, way more than the value of the 1,000 horses the Brahmana originally asked for. Think about that. Because of one harsh whip strike and a super rigid vow, the holy man walks away with an unbelievable fortune that vastly exceeds what he even needed to pay his preceptor in the first place. Section 6. The Price of Honor. These final points really highlight exactly how ancient kshatriya morals functioned. You see, the king's extreme, inflexible vow was actually what caused the initial violence. He lashed out purely because the request broke his internal, unspoken rules. But the thing that makes him virtuous in this text is his profound sense of accountability. He fully owned up to his fault in striking an innocent messenger, and he used his immense wealth to brutally and overwhelmingly restore that moral balance. So I want to leave you with this provocative thought to ponder. Does a massive payout of gold and silver truly erase the crack of a whip? Like, is extreme generosity actually an acceptable atonement for a violent outburst? Or are we really just witnessing the incredibly high price of a king trying to maintain his rigid, unspoken honor? It really makes you step back and question how we view morality, the ways we apologize, and the true, sometimes totally hidden cost of keeping our most personal promises. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I hope this ancient story gave you a brand new perspective on accountability.